Hey everyone, welcome to yet another great interview for the 2023 Business Connection Virtual Summit. I am Bill Marshall and I am joined by Wayne, and today we are talking all about a very interesting topic, the impact that AI has had on copywriting and how it works. So without further ado, Wayne, please tell us who you are, what you do, and a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today.
All right. I am Wayne Carroll. I'm an intellectual property attorney. I'm licensed as a patent attorney, and my practice focuses on intellectual property, which is and obtaining rights for inventions, for creative content, for trademarks, brands, and for protecting trade secrets. Today we're going to talk about copyright, and one of the issues that is really big is because now we have AI that is producing content, and some of it's written, some of it's images or video, and who is the author, what does it mean, and what is protected, what's not protected, and we'll also talk about what exactly does copyright protect, so we have this in context.
Absolutely. So I think that the first thing we want to kind of understand is a little bit more about what AI is producing. I know you named a couple different areas. What are the things that are coming out through AI? And, how is the copyright part coming into play of it all?
Okay. First of all, a good example, and if I could share my screen,
Of course.
I need your permission.
Go ahead.
Okay. So there's can you oh there we go. Can you see the Zara of the Dawn
So I only see half your
on the
screen.
screen?
I only see half
Am
your
I
screen.
sharing the right one? Yeah, I should be sharing this. Oh, okay.
I'll cut
Let me
this out. Don't worry about that. So we'll pull it up and then start. There you
now
go.
do you
Now
see
I
the
see it.
whole screen?
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right. So you see the Zara of the Dawn?
Yes, I do.
So the Copyright Office, so the author of this, she and she submitted it to the Copyright Office and obtained a copyright registration, but then it blew up on social media because everybody was amazed. All of the images here were actually produced by AI, and with a certain amount of prompts, and so the AI drew all of these images. Once it blew up on social media, the Copyright Office noticed it and said, wait a second, we need to review this again.
Mm-hmm.
And so they brought it back, and what they determined was that only the words, which of course were written by her, and the arrangement of these drawings is protected under copyright. So copyright gives you the opportunity to have exclusive rights to your creative content, and it's granted to the author.
Mm-hmm.
And what the Copyright Office determined was the current law does not allow non-humans, which AI is not a human,
Yeah.
to be an author. So an AI can't get copyright rights. And some of the arguments that they addressed was there was some editing, so there was work done even after the AI created the images. But the question is, who's the author of the creative content? So here's an example where there's a little bit of shadowing here that looks funky from the AI, and so they made that look a little better right here. And so the final result was that, as I mentioned, so the author and artwork generated by artificial intelligence are not copyrighted. So people can copy that
Hmm.
without infringing the copyright, but they can't copy the whole thing because her creativity went into arranging it and the words that are incorporated.
Hmm.
So that's one of the first ones. Now, another thing that comes up is infringement by the AI. So on the left here, we have Getty Images. This is one of their 12 million photos. They have about 12 million photos that are available to license. And on the right, so the AI engine, it goes on the internet and it learns. It looks at images that are available on the internet and it learns from them. Well, since Getty Images has 12 million images, it started learning erroneously that it needs a watermark of some sort right here, because
Hmm.
that's about where they put all their watermarks. So the one on the right is generated by AI, and those legs don't look right and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But um, their argument here is this is basically a redrawing of that picture, and so it's a derivative work, and
Hmm.
the owner of a copyright gets the opportunity to control derivative works, things that are based on the creative content in their image.
Okay.
So that's in court right now. We don't know how that's going to end up, but that's one of the concerns with AI creating images, is whether or not it's creating something that infringes other people's works. Now, here they also have a trademark issue. So on the top is the Getty Images. It says Getty
Hmm.
Images. So that's from a Getty Images. The bottom two were produced by AI, and one of them you can clearly see Getty Images.
Hmm.
It's really clear, even though the stuff beneath it's kind of garbledy.
Yeah.
And so that's a concern that the AI is infringing trademarks as well.
So here's a question though that comes from this. When the AI is basing on another picture, if the person's suing, so in this case, Getty's Images, like who are they suing? The company that created that particular AI that created the picture? Like who are they actually going after to sue?
Yeah, they're suing the company who is generating these images, because those companies are making money off of people being able to use their AI.
Okay.
Uh, so I don't know how many of the people that are going to watch this have used ChatGPT, but with ChatGPT, you can get one version for free. You can get an upgraded version for monthly subscription. And then there's actually a bunch of services that go through the back door. It's called an API, that one program talks to the ChatGPT, asks it for stuff, and instead of displaying it on a web browser, it sends it back to that program so that that program can display the results. And that access is a paid access. So
Hmm.
ChatGPT is making money a couple different ways, and the same is likely true. I haven't explored each of their revenue streams, but so these companies are making money.
Hmm.
And Getty Images, I've seen a lot of their pictures where I've been looking for stuff, and some of their pictures are really simple. It's like Scrabble letters that says a word that you're looking for, and they took a picture of that and they say, okay, that's our picture. You want to license that? Now, that's pretty easy for an AI to create as an image.
Hmm.
But if it's uh so if that's not infringing, um then the Getty Images has a challenge that there's an easy way for people to get images that are cheaper. So this is a threat to their business model in a
Yeah,
way. And you know,
absolutely.
yeah, and they can't stop everything, but they want to draw some lines and say, hey, if you're, and maybe they'll end up working out a deal and settling the case where these AI companies pay a license or something like that for their training effort.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was also really useful that Getty Images had each of these images with text alongside it saying what's in the picture, because that's what people are searching for. And so, if someone's searching for soccer players and you know soccer players in a stadium, then that would come up. And so the AI gets text telling it what's in the picture, and it really advances this training. So
Yeah.
basically, they've used what is available, what Getty Images has put on the web, but how much of that is infringing copyright? So that's
Yeah.
um
So I think
yeah.
one of the other questions that comes up then when we're talking about the AI, a lot of people will use AI, or I know I use ChatGPT as well, to get jumping off points for inspiration with emails and text and different kinds of copy that I'll put out, and for social media posts, things like that. So when it comes to something in that department where, say I'm looking to put an email together and I ask for inspiration and then I alter it to a degree to be what I want, how much do I have to change that before I could copyright it? So say it was like for something that I would want to copyright, like a podcast or a book or something maybe. And I did it, had ChatGPT kind of put together ideas for me as I was writing. Does that fall into that category if it came out that I used like ChatGPT to inspire the different things? Like, what's the degree I'd have to change it to get my own copyright then?
So the standard in the law is when you create something, it needs to be original. So you're not copying from someone else. It needs to be creative, and it needs to be um, recorded in some way, whether written down. It can't just be, hey, I had that in my mind. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's not recorded.
Yeah.
um, or even if you broadcast but never record an event, well, there's no record of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's possible. It pretty much all broadcasts are recorded, but um, that's so it has to be recorded. But having original, so we don't know the edges of this law yet, and we actually haven't written any new laws based on this. So there was there have been some cases in the past. One that was famous was a monkey took a camera from a photographer. He stole it and went
Mm-hmm.
around the jungle taking pictures, including a selfie. Um,
Cool.
and that selfie went viral, and so he sued people to try to recover money from it, and the court said, well, you didn't take the picture. The author is whoever takes the picture. So the monkey took the picture.
Yeah.
So, but monkeys can't be authors. So there's no
Yeah.
copyright on that. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the same reasoning we're using here with the AI. And I don't know if any of that will change some of the questions that I have. So if you wrote enough creative content and gave it to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is more making it nice, better sentence structures, then ChatGPT is editing, not creating.
Mm-hmm.
But if ChatGPT is is the creative, puts in the creative part, then I think it's much harder to show that you're gonna have transformed it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's really what they've used is um there have been cases where, one side's saying you copied my work, the other one says, no, I completely transformed it. It's so
Yeah.
different that I don't have to pay you. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of the standard. It has to be what would be considered a transformation. So just it's good to understand at this point that the marketing where ChatGPT is primarily the creator, you're not going to be able to copyright that.
Mm-hmm.
But as you put together your creative content and the AI's creative content, if suppose you've got a series of emails, you've got 500 emails that walk people through a journey, and you said, well, I'm going to put those together in a book. And it was you use Chat GPT to help you with all of those emails. Well, one of the hard parts is recording and keeping good records of, was this written, who wrote it, because really you have two authors, you and Chat GPT, according to
Mm-hmm.
the Copyright Office. So you're gonna want to keep copies of your prompts and what it gave you and the final version, so that you can analyze all this. Now, the reality is there may be a lot of cases where people don't record any of that, and they just, even though they use Chat GPT, say, I wrote all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's hard to dispute. I believe there are programs and ways that they can detect whether or not ChatGPT wrote it.
Okay.
And that's, I've heard, I haven't seen this myself, but I've heard that in academia, especially high school, middle school, that kind of stuff, there's this cat and mouse game where the students will use ChatGPT, and so then they got a program to detect that, so they can say, hey, you didn't actually do the work. And so then someone comes up with something that can escape that detection, and so they keep going back and forth of, oh, this one won't be detected, and then they figure out how to detect that, and then they create another one. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. No, it's kind of funny because me and my wife like Pokemon a lot, and there's a game called Pokemon Go, and they had
yeah,
a problem for a while where there was apps that would show you where the Pokemon were as like a cheat, just like you're saying, and then they would fix a bug and it would get rid of it, and then the app that finds the Pokemon would do it again, and then it was like back and forth for a while, and I think the app eventually just gave up, but it was funny because it was exactly what you were talking about, where like they kept battling each other on how to beat out the cheat, if you will. Um, so it's pretty cool. Well, not cool in the sense that people are trying to screw things, but cool in the sense that you know it's amazing how programming can even change like that. And I think AI is kind of a good example of that too. How when I was in high school, most we had was Spark Notes, which was like someone writing a summary of a book. Now students can literally just say, "Write me a summary of this book," and then like the thing will do it. So it's a whole different world, and that's only like 10, 15 years even.
yeah. Some of
So
the cases I expect. So in the trademark office, when you file the trademark, um, there are times where they're able to show that the person submitted information they knew was not correct
okay.
in filing the trademark application. And it's actually become very few because it's considered fraud. Fraud needs an intent. It's really hard to prove intent, but there are some cases where they say, okay, this is egregious. Clearly, you did not tell the trademark office some things. You clearly misrepresented facts that were not true. One of them I reviewed recently was so it was a author and a publishing company, and they had decided to do something together. I think the author never finished what they were supposed to,
Mm-hmm.
and the publishing company went ahead. It was about a pen name, so they'd come up with a pen name. The author never produced the book, and so the publisher went ahead and used the pen name for other stuff. They
Yeah.
thought that sounds like a good pen name. So the author filed in the Copyright Office and claimed that I don't remember if it was a he or she, we'll just say he had used this trademark on the books that the publishing company had actually published. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't the author's books.
Yeah.
It was the publishing company's books. So that was the proof they submitted to the trademark office that they had actually used it. So, a battle ensued in court, and they said, you clearly lied to the trademark office.
Yeah.
So in the future, I expect there are going to be cases where someone knows that they didn't write all this stuff,
Yeah.
and they're claiming they wrote it. Now, probably what's going to have to happen in the meantime is the Copyright Office will, and I'm just predicting the future here.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Copyright Office will change the form asking for whether any of the content was created by artificial intelligence. And if
Yeah.
somebody clearly marks no, and it really was, then if they go to enforce that copyright, that's would be fraud on the Copyright Office. And this kind of fraud is, the result is your copyright registration's canceled. You don't have that right anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my prediction based on other areas of law where I think things might want to go. That would be a logical result. And that's the reason why you will want to record at least a general idea of how much did AI contribute and how much did you contribute if you're going to be filing a copyright registration. I mean, if you're never going to be suing anyone in court, it doesn't really matter that much. Yeah. I suppose if you are licensing this to somebody and they're going to pay you money, you want to be clear with them so that they don't sue you back and say, you're not the author.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, that's headed to court.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. And I think that this really gives us a lot of different things to think about when it comes to, the new way that the world's going, with a lot of the AI stuff really catching on and becoming useful in a lot of different business functions, from marketing to creating internal documents and things like that, to kind of get people moving quicker. And I think, like you said, it's a matter of, if you're doing posts on social media, it's extremely unlikely that you're going to copyright any of that, because you've
right.
already trademarked your product or whatever might be in the video. But like the video itself, it might not matter. So go ahead. But if you're doing something where you're writing content or things that you're going to need to copyright and trademark and stuff like that, then it's really something we gotta consider. So to wrap this into a little bow, what are some final things that we should know about the excuse me, about the situation, but also about copyright and AI, maybe something we haven't touched on yet?
So I think to kind of wrap it up, when you are creating something, you can combine, you want to record what it is that you created. And if you combine that with what the AI, then you can show, hey, I created something. I had creativity into this. Otherwise, just understand that, there's a lot of marketing out there that you will need to trademark if you want a phrase or a slogan or a name. That's going to be your best protection in marketing. But otherwise, there's that challenge that and there's no requirement right now, and I don't know if there ever will be, to notify people that that this was created by AI. Now, copyright, one thing I haven't mentioned is the law considers that you have copyright when you record it. So just on paper. So this is being recorded. So there's copyright rights in this recording.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not you post it and put a notice, but anytime you don't want somebody to copy, then you put, and you created it, you put the circle C, and you don't have to have a copyright registration to do that. You put the circle C and the date and the owner of the copyright. So, if you contributed anything that was your creative content, you can put that on. You don't have to put a disclaimer on there saying, it's only this part that I added.
Yeah.
So, and I have used AI quite a bit. I have a podcast, Leveraging Inspiration. Some episodes more than others. I got an outline or some ideas. I almost always spend a couple of hours taking that outline and modifying it quite a bit. Sometimes I end up completely rewriting it. I consider AI, and I haven't used image AI. I've used just ChatGPT. I consider it a first draft, and that's the other thing. Always consider it a first draft. I haven't mentioned hallucinations, which is a term that OpenAI, the creators of ChatGPT, they actually came up with that term for when ChatGPT makes stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
This happened to some attorneys who, I don't know if it was an associate, but somebody wrote a brief that got filed in court, and it was not properly fact-checked. So it was citing cases that didn't exist.
Yeah.
It made up cases. It made up quotes.
Mm-hmm.
And it does that because it's still very young and very early. It hasn't been taught that if you put quotes, you need to get that from somewhere else. Right now, it's like, what comes next? Well, what comes next based on everything I see is a quote. Well, what should go in that quote? Not where do I get the quote? So it hasn't learned a lot of things. And I think for years, there will be things that it hasn't learned.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always a rough draft when it starts. My opinion, when I first, started considering what should the law do, I consider some of these AI things like a camera. When the camera first came out, people before that had to paint an image or a portrait or whatever. And this greatly reduced the time. You could capture it in an instant. And we consider that artistic.
Mm-hmm.
And so just like that, is there enough creativity that goes into the prompt itself for ChatGPT, or will we consider that in the future? I don't know. But I think we should consider those lines because this is technology, just like the camera, compared to, paintings, that it can make things happen so much faster. But right now, if ChatGPT did it, then it's not.
Yeah. Now that's a really,
yeah,
that's a really interesting way to put it, so that it's really understandable. I never would have thought of that relation itself. So definitely a lot that we went through, and I'm sure there's a lot more. So if anyone needs to reach out to you to find out more about this, how can they get a hold of you?
I have a website. It's ideasolutions.com. You can also find links at my podcast, Leveraging Inspiration. And that's on all the major podcast platforms, as well as I have the domain leveraginginspiration.com. So those are two good ways to find me. Look me up on LinkedIn, Wayne Carroll, patent attorney. I should show up first.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time going through all this. Again, I am Bill Marshall, and I want to thank everyone for listening to another great interview from our 2023 Business Connection Virtual Summit. And we will see you all in the networking event tonight. Bye.